Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Influence Economy. I'm your host, Shayna Davis, and I'm so glad that you're here. But before we get started, I need you to do me a favor. So, wherever it is that you're listening to this episode, I want you to take a screenshot. And with that screenshot, I want you to post it on your social media, tag us here at Shayna Rattler Davis, and then I just want to hear your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from this episode. And the reason why I do that is not so much because I care about downloads, but I know that there are far too many women that are seen and not paid. And also, they don't really know what to do to change that. And so, the more times these episodes are shared, they can be exposed to the shifts that are required to own their influence. So, thank you in advance for being willing to do that. I am going to read my guest's bio and then we're going to get started for what I know is going to be a great conversation. Now, I'm just going to tell y'all this. I've only known her since October of last year, but I know she's going to be dropping me nuggets that are writer downers. So if you have not already grabbed your pen and your paper, I want you to pause right now and go get that because I know that she's going to be sharing things that you're going to want to write down to make you some money. So here we go. My guest today is a digital marketing expert who built her online coaching business after experiencing her first military move in early 2016. She departed her corporate position to follow her husband on military orders to Florida. She started her entrepreneur journey by offering virtual assistant support to coaches and service providers. 1 year into business, she discovered her passion for sales funnels and systems automation. She revamped her focus and services and supports hundreds of coaches with 5 and 6 figure digital launches. She coaches in multiple 7 figure coaching programs and private communities, supporting hundreds of women to get clear on their messaging and launch strategies that will allow them to increase their impact and income while they engage, excite, and enroll their audience. I want to welcome to the show Sandra. I said it all wrong already. Sandra Ocasio.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're here. So, everyone, full transparency. She says she coaches in a lot of 7 figure communities. I'm in one of those communities and she's coaching us right now. So, I say full transparency because obviously I didn't pay her to be here today, but I want you to know that like I've been sitting under her in her teachings since October, and that's why she's here because I know that what she teaches works. I know several people that she has helped with their automation and their digital stuff, and they make a lot of money. And so what she does works. And if you've been in these streets very long, on my podcast, you know that I don't even bring a lot of guests on anymore. I used to have a show where I brought on nothing but guests, and I got really strategic this year about the people that I want to bring on because this never happened. But what I don't want to happen is I never want there to be a time that someone is on my show and someone takes action with them, and then they come back to me and was like, beyond the sound bites of your show, they didn't know what the hell they were talking about. So so I'm making sure that I'm very strategic this year. Again, it never happened, but I don't want it to happen. I'm very strategic this year that people that are on here are people who have walked the talk and they can actually teach you things that are going to help you succeed in what I call the influence economy. So glad you're here. So I want to just start with the basics. Like how do you define digital marketing and like why is that so critical for brands?
That's a really great question. So I defined digital marketing as anything you want to do in the online space, right? Anything, obviously there's the traditional marketing that you do as a storefront. You are going to want to have a footprint in the digital world, but then you're also going to want to get flyers and business cards and the traditional marketing that also require, it's probably like TV, newspaper ads and things like that. So now that we have access to the internet and it's been around for forever at this point, right? We need to start doing more on the digital space. Obviously, social media is a thing, podcasting. So any digital footprint that you're putting in the internet is, to me, digital marketing.
And I feel like we live in such a digital first world. Like everything is digital. Like I actually have a television provider that I've had for 2 years and I've never even plugged up the box or whatever to have it because I just stream it, through the television. And so it's like you can't get away from, from the digital first world that we live in. But what I love is that there used to be a time where making money from your influence in the digital world was just reserved for celebrities. It was just reserved for, like actors and professional athletes. And now anyone can take advantage of being able to sell online. I love that you talked about brick and mortar because even when I go to like Bath and Body Works, that's one of the few stores that I actually still visit in person anymore. They still want to know, like, what is my email address so that they can send me email promotions. They have an app so I can keep track of my rewards. And so I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you're the guru, but I don't think that any type of business, any type of brand, whether you're a personal brand all the way up to a company, whether you're strictly brick and mortar or whether you're all online, I don't think you can escape
Mhm.
understanding digital marketing.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that they ask for those type of things. They're heavy now on even there's still mail inserts. They're still asking for email, like not just email addresses, but your home address, right? There's something psychologically about receiving something in the mail when you get that coupon from Kohl's or Express or what you mentioned, Body and Beyond. I don't even know how to
Yeah,
say it.
Bath and Body Works.
Bath and Body Works, right? That you get excited about peeling off that coupon and saying, I'm gonna hold on to this and go down to the store because they're really trying to make sure that they cover every single generation that's still around, right? And there's still people that sit down and grab that Sunday newspaper and go through the inserts and they get excited about that type of stuff. And so that's why it is, even though we are on the digital marketing space, the other stuff still matters too, and it's timeless. So
Yeah.
I would agree, every single business can't escape that.
One of the strategies that I teach is how you can use your podcast to really be able to be a magnet for high value activities. I specifically teach 5 strategies: corporate contracts, corporate sponsors, high paid speaking engagements, book deals, and media appearances. But I also know that oftentimes the way podcasters can monetize their show is by having like digital products and digital programs. And like some examples of that are, hey, you can go here and download my free this to get you started. You can download my course that's $500. You can get in my program, all the different things. And so what strategies are working? Like everything's always changing, right? So like what strategies do you recommend that people use if they want to successfully launch some type of digital program or digital product?
So I love that you mentioned this because I do think that's the first step that typically you say, hey, I have this free thing, come get it. However, we tend to send people to the free thing and don't do such a great job at doing the follow-up, right? And the follow-up doesn't actually start in the inbox. The follow-up starts when you have their attention right then and there, and you got them to give you an email and a name. Don't wait until because we're relying heavily on people's obedience to actually make it to the inbox, to go open the freebie and to go look at it, right? But if you have their attention right there, there's so much power to the thank you page. There's so much
Mhm.
power to that confirmation page, right? Like you got me excited for 2 seconds. Now what? Tell me more right then and there. And typically, we don't want to get in front of the camera and we don't want to tell them immediately, hey, I'm so excited that you're doing this one thing, but by the way, I have something else for you, right? And I highly, highly recommend a video on the confirmation page, letting them know like, hey, I'm so glad that you stopped by, but by the way, I have something else that I think is going to be of interest to you. And typically you want to keep things congruent, right? If the checklist is for, I'm going to teach you how to do XYZ, then let the upsell on the thank you page be congruent to whatever it is that the free thing was, right? And so I think we wait too long and we have their attention right there. So that's when you need to get them. That's when you need to, don't wait until they follow the 7-day sequence and all of that because you've already lost them. So
Yeah.
seize the moment when you have their attention in that second.
That's so good. One of the things that I have done in the past in my video that's on my thank you page is that I don't just reiterate the promise of what they got to keep them excited about why they just clicked like 4 seconds ago. I usually give them, albeit small, I go ahead and I give them like a quick tidbit right then and there. So they're like, oh my God, I've got to see what else she's talking about. Or, I'll say, like, hey, there's seven of them. One of the things I'm going to talk about is this, but if you don't understand number five, number six is not going to make any sense. You know what I mean? And so I start to teach a little bit, even if it's just a little blurb inside of the thank you video, because, like you said, our attention is being pulled in so many different directions. And, what happens if they get excited about wherever they saw you at the top of the funnel, whether it was online or at a speaking engagement or they were listening to your podcast, and then by the time they get to the thank you page, the baby's crying, the phone's ringing, somebody's at, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to give them a reason, or you have to have a way of staying top of mind to give them a reason to want to stay engaged with what you're doing. That's kind of how I
Yeah.
think about it.
And the other part to that, just to add to that, the other thing is if you give them the video, they get to make a determination. Do I like this girl enough to keep
Yeah.
listening to her,
Yeah.
right? Because I do believe that the way we speak, the way we sound, the way we act, our personalities contribute to someone saying, I really love her energy, or
Yeah.
I can listen to this person. And the reason I say that, and I'm heavy on this, is because I bought a course and I couldn't understand why my body wanted to reject when this person would speak. And I was like, I would tense up every time I would hear this person speak. And I'm like, why do I feel like this? And for some reason, one day I put my headphones in and I started listening to her and I had my eyes closed and it clicked. It made me realize she sounds just like someone who put me through a lot. And
Ah,
so it's so important to make sure that people can hear you, and can they hear you, and can they learn from you, and can they actually say, I really love her energy, or I like, or you know what, I can't stand her mannerisms or whatever. And it happens, right? We get judged that way, and that's okay. And if I'm not for you, God bless you. Listen, someone else is going to be for you. But that's why the thank you video is also important, because as you said, the baby starts crying, your attention goes somewhere else. But the reality is, if I know that I made an impact on that person, whether they can't do it right then and there, they're going to still go later and say, oh, I remember that girl. What was her name? Let me
yeah.
go look her up again. So that's another reason why psychologically you want to make sure you're making that a connection with them where you're memorable.
Yeah. So everybody write that down. Go back and look at every sales page that you have. If you don't know what a sales page is, then you really need to work with Sandra. But if, go back to the sales page that you have. And when you get to the thank you page, if you don't already have a video there, put one there, implement these strategies. If you do have a video there, check it against these things that she's sharing. Because again, these are the things that work now. We are in a space where there is so much noise in the marketplace that is taking people's attention away, that you have to be willing to do these extra things, even if it takes a little bit more time, even if it takes a little bit more money, in order for people to pay attention to what it is that you're doing. So make sure you're writing this stuff down. Sandra, one of the mistakes that I see a lot of people make in business, especially when they're learning a strategy, is they don't pay attention to the numbers. They focus so much on what their brand looks like. They focus so much on what the actual strategy is and setting up the components, but they ignore the numbers. And
Mm.
so, what metrics do you think are important for us to kind of gauge whether or not a campaign is successful? And how do we use those metrics to like optimize, what it is that we're doing as the campaign is evolving?
Yeah, this is really good. And it is really, really important too, because the numbers do tell a story, right? The first piece I'm gonna say, especially for those of you who are just starting off, is the numbers are not gonna matter if you don't do.
Mm.
Right? The strategy at the beginning is not the numbers. The strategy at the beginning is just do, just go, just launch, just get it out there, right? That's the first thing. Then for all of you who are already doing the thing, I want you to pay attention to the numbers, because it does tell us a story of where people are dropping off, right? And at the beginning, so the other part, before I jump into what numbers to look at, is I want you to pay attention to the topic that you're talking about, right? Because the numbers will be affected by the topic. And I'll give an example. If you are a coach that helps people with childhood trauma, for example, just as an example, most people are going to be like, well, I don't understand why, I get this reach and it says that it reached 500 people, but no one liked it. And I always go back to, well, did you invite that person into a private conversation? Because when think about it, if I like a post that I may not want people to know I have childhood trauma, no one's going to hit that like button. But if you invite me to a private conversation, I might actually react that way. So you could measure those numbers by the way people are sliding into the DMs and things like that, right? So that's the reason why I mentioned that, because we do live in an environment that we're being very vocal about sensitive topics. So if you have a sensitive topic in mind that you do touch, I want you to keep that in mind as you are factoring in your numbers. But the numbers to pay attention to is obviously, how much did it reach? How many people clicked on it? It's a concept I learned from one of my mentors, Russell Brunson. It's hook story offer, right? The hook is what you put on the caption. How many people clicked on it? Did people click on that? The story is what you're saying on your sales page, right? And then the offer that you're presenting on that sales page. So if you see that the numbers are dwindling down, it's going to allow for you to figure out, all right, I set up this funnel. I don't know what to change. But if you don't know your numbers, you're going to be changing a whole lot, and that affects your funnel. And so when you know your hook story offer and where are the numbers dropping, that's where it tells you the story to know you don't have to change your offer. All you have to change is your messaging, or you don't have to change your messaging. You just have to make sure you amplify the value of your offer, the positioning of your offer. So knowing your numbers is going to allow for you to know, where am I looking at? And I don't want you to change everything in your funnel. Just figure out what is the numbers telling you. And then obviously the numbers that you want to pay attention to on the other side of, once you're making profit, once you're making sales, is which of them. And if it's digital products, I'm never going to say take that down, because it's a digital product, right? It doesn't matter. But the efforts of, where do you put your Facebook ad money at, or where do you put your efforts in making sure you're putting more eyeballs on that offer? And so that's why making sure you're keeping inventory of some of these things will allow for you to know, where do my efforts go more.
Yeah, I told y'all she was good. What gets measured gets mastered. So you've got to be tracking stuff. We're not just throwing stuff out. Now, in a way, you are testing, but you're not just putting stuff out there and moving on to the next thing, hopefully, because we have all been guilty of that. We get so excited about the next thing we want to launch that we're not actually paying attention to what's working to realize what needs to be changed. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the things that can actually get in the way. So you're going to want to make sure you stick around. We'll be right back. Ready to turn your influence into income? Take the Influence Growth Assessment. In just minutes, you'll uncover the next steps to grow your visibility, attract bigger opportunities, and boost your profitability. Visit myinfluencestyle.com to take the assessment today. A new era of success is waiting. Let's make it yours. All right, welcome back. So we have Sandra Ocasio here, and we are talking all things digital marketing, how to make money in these internet streets. I don't know why I like saying in these streets all the time. In these coaching streets and these internet streets. I guess I'm a little ghetto. Anyway, so we're talking a lot about like how you can be successful with digital products, digital programs, just digital marketing in general. And it's always evolving and changing. So like, how do you personally like stay up to date with like what's new and what's working and like what's so old school that, like what's so 2024 that you shouldn't even be doing that anymore?
Yeah, I honestly, it's so easy. As you mentioned earlier, there's so much noise, and it's so easy to say, oh, well, I'm going to try that because that's what's trending, right? And the thing that I want you to remember about things that are trending is that they fizzle out really quick.
Mm.
They're trending in this moment, but if you weren't riding the wave before it started trending, you probably missed it already. So don't even waste your time with that. But when it comes down to it, I like to learn and I like to teach things that are timeless because I know that they're going to continue to work regardless of what's happening and what's changing around us. And so for me, it's really, really important. And I think that learning the psychological piece of it, of like, why am I telling you to do this? Because most people are just like, why are you telling me to get in front of the camera? And it's like, but this is the reason why. And so when we learn the deeper meaning of why we have to do some of these marketing things, we get excited about doing them. So they no longer feel like a chore or anything like that. They feel like I'm contributing to the bigger purpose, which is my why, right? And so I don't typically, yes, I obviously read books. A person that I read a lot is Dan Kennedy. He is
Mm.
so masterful with everything that he teaches when it comes down to the digital world. And the thing about Dan Kennedy that I really love is that he was teaching marketing back in the 70s,
I
right?
was just getting ready to say, if you're under the age of 30, you probably have no idea who she's talking about.
Yes, if you are under, but you know, you'd be surprised, right? You would be surprised because a lot of kids now, and I'm seeing that he's growing a lot too. He's now partnered up with Russell Brunson. So there's a lot that he's doing. He's taking things that he created back in the 70s and he's relaunching them. But it's because they're timeless, because they're that good, right? One of the we connected through Marshawn. Marshawn teaches a lot of things that are timeless, things that she pulls out the DVD. She's like, this was when we had the DVDs, the booklets, but it's still things that are relevant. So I don't look too much at what's trending. I look more at what has been working for a few decades before me, right? And I think that that's the safe thing to, and I don't want to say safe, but that's always what I bet on because I know it's going to work.
I love that response because even if you gave a resource, how long is it before the resource, gets outdated? I won't mention who because it's not important. It's definitely nothing negative against this individual, but I just signed up for a course recently. And one of the things that she tells you when you purchase the course is that every time something changes, that you can count on her to update the course. And I'm appreciative for that, but I'm like, my God, today, like, how often do you have to do that? Especially because it's pertaining to social media,
Mhm.
So I'm like, I wonder how often she has to re-record her modules just to stay relevant.
And that's a tough one too. I say that too, but the only reason I say that in my courses is because I've noticed, and I posted this last week. I pay attention. I saw videos of me 9 years ago, and I was like, wow, I'm so grateful for that girl 9 years ago. That even though she was stuttering, and even though she didn't know what she was doing, and even though she stumbled through a lot of it, so I re-recorded again. That's the only reason because I'm only elevating, and so as that elevated version of me shows up, I'm like, I want y'all to get the best of me.
Yeah.
Now, and even re-recording, I noticed I was like, damn, that took me 15 minutes. And when I re-recorded, it took me 6. My words are getting more potent. So, and I know that I need to get straight to the point without, the stuttering and the ums and the all the things that we do. So that's the only reason I say if I update it, I will give you guys access because I'm only giving you a better version of me.
That's so good. And I'm glad you said that because it takes me back to something that you said a couple of months ago on one of our coaching calls. And I was going to ask you, like, what mindset shifts or habits do you recommend? But I want you to talk about the one that you just talked about, the length of our content. You shared a story. I'm going to tell you what it was and I'll let you tell it. But you shared a story about someone that took a program that they thought they were going to be disappointed because it was so short. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to let you tell that story because I think that that is a mindset shift that we need to adopt, that good quality content does not necessarily have to be like
Yeah.
60 minutes, an hour and a half.
Yes,
Would you
yes.
tell that story?
Yes, absolutely. So the story, and I share this in my workshops mainly because I have a client who her and I work together, and so she posted on her social media that she bought a course, and when she went to go take the course, it was 15 minutes long. And she paid $400 for, that's when she had that big realization, like, did I just really pay $400 for 15 minutes. And, obviously she was upset. She was shaking the keyboard, hoping a couple more modules would show up, but nothing showed up. And she was like, well, let me give this 15-minute video a chance. And when she watched it, she's like, it was the most mind-blowing 15 minutes she had ever paid for in all the time that she's been in this coaching online space. And the whole lesson behind it wasn't so much about volume, it was about value. And so when you know what you're saying, she closed it by saying, when you know what you're saying, you don't have to say a lot. So
Yeah.
that goes back to making sure that your content is potent, where people don't feel like they have to have 100 modules and worksheets and plug and play templates. You can get straight to the point and make as much impact as well.
That right there, ladies, is where you sigh a sigh of relief. Because for many of them, they're probably thinking, "Oh my God, like this is what's going to move me to create what it is that I haven't created, or this is what's going to get me out of my head about whether or not I'm going to have a lot of attrition or people are going to be asking for refunds." If your stuff is good, my grandmother, an old uneducated woman from Mississippi, used to say, "If you're good, it don't take all day." Now, she wasn't talking about digital products. I'll let you read between the lines.
I love that.
But it rings true today. If you're good, it don't take all day. Like, set it up with a little bit of context, but then just get to what it is that they came to you to give them and move on. And they will thank you. If it's bad, they're going to say, this was trash. This was like this was worth $15, a dollar a minute. But if it's good, no one is going to mind that you gave them the opportunity to get back to their busy day. At least I know I don't.
Oh God. And the one thing I will add this, because I think this is really important. We sometimes stop ourselves from recording the thing because we think we need to have our hair and makeup. Ladies, if that's the case, if you're sitting here saying, I got to get my hair done, I got to get my there's plenty of faceless content that you could record. You could speak over slides and still get that content out to the people. And then in the future, if you decide to hire a photographer and a videographer and a makeup, all the things. But in the meantime and in between time, you could still get that content out and let the people like serve the folks, right? It is so selfish of us to sit here and stop recording because we haven't gotten our hair done or we haven't gotten the makeup.
And I feel like over the last 10 years, that's become less expected, or people don't even really care as much anymore. Now, it doesn't give you an excuse to have bad sound or bad lighting, or, just to, be walking through the grocery store or something while you're doing it. But I think gone are the days where people sometimes don't even relate to you as much if everything looks like studio polished. Now, you can do those things, especially if you've had the opportunity to nurture people over time. But I think sometimes it makes you even more relatable for them to see, you know what? She had something to say today, and she didn't care that one lash is a little off. That this one lash starts like one day I was watching, I didn't pay attention to, I noticed it like after I started recording, but like you just said, I wasn't going to let it stop. I had put on like strip lashes, and one of them was way over further than the other one. So this lash was like, looks like this, and this one looks like this. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let that stop me. As a matter of fact, I made a joke about it. And if there was someone there that it bothered them that much, then they weren't my people anyway.
Oh no. And I was like, I am not stopping this good word just
Oh,
for this slash.
that's right. So, Sandra, you are a wealth of information. This is literally, this 20-minute conversation that we've had is literally just scraping the surface of what it is that you can do for people. So if someone is listening right now and they want to take things further with you, I would love, number one, if you could share how they can follow you on social media, like what your social media handle is. And then if you have something that you would like to offer them that they can take things further with you, I would love to know where we should send them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity of just pouring into your audience. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's you can go at I am Sandra Ocasio. And I am going to actually give you the link to be able to download a 43-page planner that I recently created, where I'm walking you through 7 fundamental steps to creating your first digital product. So you guys will get that for free. And I am just super excited to hear from what was the biggest takeaways from them from today's call.
Absolutely. Now, is there a particular URL that they should visit, Sandra, to get the planner?
Yeah, I'm going to make that one for your audience in
Okay,
particular. I'm going to
perfect.
make that one Sandra Ocasio shayna.com/checklist.
Okay, perfect. I will make sure that all this is in the show notes. Y'all follow her, get this planner. Yeah, get this planner. I can't say that enough so that you can get your content out in the world and so that you can continue to be successful in the influence economy. So again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being willing to drop your nuggets. Everyone share, share, share this episode far and wide with someone that you know that needs to make more money from their influence. I hope that you will go back and listen to previous and future episodes as well. Everyone have a great day. Bye bye.